All right, my friends. Hello. Let's make sure we got everything going here, that our audio is working, that our video is working, but it looks like we are all good. Wait, nope, mic was wrong. All right, let's try this again. Hello and welcome to our Creatives Checkup today. My name is Alan C. Paul. If you're new to our program, to our platform, to our community, this is where we help you to transform your creative life from the inside out as a musician, performer, entrepreneur, anyone at the intersection of the arts, ministry, and entertainment. And we help you to become the creative that God created you to be. And we have been doing this for a while. We are here now in our 8th year as a podcast, I guess you could say, and then our really 10th year as an existence, because I first started this in 2015. So crazy, I hadn't even thought about that, but we are actually at our 10-year anniversary as a community and as a platform. So this is amazing. Thank you for joining me. If you are watching right now, you may not be familiar with this, but you can comment and we can see your comments and we can pull them up. You'll see me do a little bit thing right here. So if you're able to comment, please do. We can share this and share your conversation with the rest of the group, and we can have this as a dialogue and not just a presentation. I am live. I am real. This is all not Memorex. This is real. And I also would love for you to share and like this as well, as I clean up all the things, all the glass things, because I can barely see as it is. All right, here we go. Let's see if we can get started. So if you can comment, please go ahead and let me know you're watching. Let me know if everything sounds okay. This is always my pet peeve, and my worry is that I forget, like I just did, one particular microphone or something that's not working. And then, we have like a whole minute or 2 minutes or 4 minutes where nobody can hear or see. So as soon as you are good and you can say, hey, everything's working, I go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and set this up just to make sure that we are ready to go ahead with our presentation. We're going to be talking today about a lot of things, but mostly if you were clicking on the YouTube, you probably saw our thumbnail, which is on celebrating your mistakes, embracing imperfection, how you can embrace imperfection. But before we get to that, I'll do a little bit of news and notes. We always do this kind of like an actual doctor's checkup in a sense, not a doctor, just like to share and play one on TV, right? So we'll start with talking about our news and notes from our community. Then we're going to get into our vital signs, which is embracing perfection. Then we'll get into our lab work, where I'll share one thing, a strategy that is actually helping us right now to gain financial support from our community right now. That's honestly 2 tools that are working really well for that, that I'm going to share with you. And then we're going to help you with what you should ask before you get booked as a freelancer. I would love to tell you kind of like I have this down, but my wife is actually the one that helped us, and we shared a post. I got a lot of feedback. So that's going to be the consult. And finally, we'll do our prescriptions, which is what I would ask you to do next. And that would be sign up for the Call to Creative Workshop, which I'm about to talk about. Love seeing who's already checking in. We have Dr. Felix, Dr. Kenny Felix, a longtime friend from back in school. He is an amazing individual. It is such a blessing to see you, Kenny. And notice he is on LinkedIn. So, wow. I have to give it up because I almost didn't go live on LinkedIn today. Because in my head, I was like, no one's really using LinkedIn. I really haven't even explained that I'm on LinkedIn. So maybe I should just stop and go back to Instagram where people really couldn't comment, but at least a couple of people were watching. Now I say, oh, that's right. This is why we go live on LinkedIn, because I get to reconnect with people like Kenny, who are just amazing in ministry, have blessed so many people throughout the years. Great to see you, brother. Also, we have Jonathan watching from Nigeria. Wow. So we went from LinkedIn and we went international in the first 6 minutes. Look at God. Wow. All right. So let's keep this train moving since we have started on such a powerful start. Always want to kick off with reminding you, if you are looking for tools or things that will help your creative career, this could be marketing, this could be in monetization, this could be in starting a podcast, this could be in YouTube, which I'm doing right now using StreamYard. All of these specific tools are things that you can find at godandgeeks.com/toolkit. I can tell you honestly, I had a little bit of a crisis moment just a few minutes ago. I'm going to go ahead and just open up the therapy, right? And just tell you like the honest truth of what's actually happening. Let's see, where am I? Here I am. So I'm going to be honest. I had a little bit of a little crisis, like about an hour ago. For some reason, this voice in my head was saying, you don't have a legitimate business. You're just, you're just talking online. You do podcasts and you do piano, but you don't really sell like a product that's something that people can actually use. The devil talks to us, y'all. The enemy gets in our heads any way he can. This is why he talks about taking every thought captive, interrogating it. I can tell you that thought did not come from God. That thought came straight from the enemy, trying to get me to be discouraged about literally what I'm doing right now. Right before Dr. Kenny jumped in, and right before Jonathan jumped in, he's telling me I don't have a legitimate business. Meanwhile, here I have on this toolkit about 20 tools that I have used to build a legitimate business. You see how it happens there? So when you get into a position where you feel like you're not doing things right and you feel like you don't have a real creative business, go back and remind yourself, number one, what God gave you, but number two, what you're already doing. The fact that we are already using tools to reach you. We are using tools to train, using tools to teach, using tools to make an income. That's proof that this is a legitimate business because we are doing business with these tools. So if you need any of these tools, check it out at godandgeeks.com/toolkit. That's where all the things that I would recommend, whether it be any of these areas, you can find them there. Excuse me, I'm a little hoarse today. Okay. This is what I'm excited about. We have rescheduled the call to the creative, the call of the creative. We had to postpone this. It was with our friend Marlita Hill, still is. And she is an incredible mentor, author, choreographer. She's worked with the dance world, but now she's just blessing all creatives with how to find your creative, spiritual calling in God. She really just brings all of that we talk about in God and Gigs to a whole nother level. That is now going to be on this coming Monday. Okay, so the 17th in the US, it's a holiday for many people, hopefully for you. And even if it's not a holiday, hopefully you can still check in, register, get your ticket, only $10. We do want to value people's time. So that's why we are making sure that this is made exactly for the people who need to know how to identify that God-given call, how to embrace the assignment God's put on your life, whether it's inside a ministry or outside of ministry. And we're going to help you do that with both of our stories. Marlita has a totally different story than me, but she has created a career following God and his principles and while embracing her creative calling. I have created a career following God's call and embracing my gifts and following my creative calling. So if that's you and you do not yet know how exactly does this work, how do I actually follow through with this? This is the workshop for you. So we've changed the URL. And once again, every week I forget to put in a URL. And once again, this time I forgot to put in a URL. I'm just going to put it in the comments. So every time I get annoyed with this, because I don't know why I don't think about every single URL. Let's go through and make sure there are, I believe it is Creative Call. I really hope that's right. Can somebody check that out, please, and make sure I got that right? I'll be very sad if I didn't get that right. Matter of fact, I'm going to check it again just because now, because we changed the URL because it's no longer a January workshop. Whew, okay, that's correct. Whew, I was nervous. All right, so godandgigs.com/creative call. That is how you can register for this again. Oh, God and Gigs 360 Gold members. That's our mastermind members, our accountability members. You do not have to register. I will send you the link automatically. It's part of your membership, okay? That's also for those of you who might have the creative resources, which is the $10 a month. So you can pay $10 now, but really it would make sense to go to godandgigs.com/membership, join the resources, and then you'll get that link every month when we do a new live stream or a workshop. And so you can go to godandgigs.com/membership for that, okay? So I would highly, 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 highly recommend. This is going to be amazing. All right. That's all the news and notes for today. Glad I got through that pretty quick, because this is going to be a great discussion right now. And again, I want to be very clear with you. I base these topics on what I feel people are asking for in our community. I don't just pick and choose based on SEO. I try to make sure that it does apply to a lot of different areas, whether it be music, photography, dance, drama, all kinds of entrepreneur niches in the creative arts and outside the creative arts, honestly, just as Christians working in the mainstream. But this one is really where I realized I got to hang my hat here, even if it may not be popular, because this is where we are. Okay, many of us are dealing with feeling like, whether it's called it imposter syndrome, let's call it perfectionism, whatever it is, we feel that we have to be perfect before we launch things, before we share things, before we finish things. This perfectionism, I want to be very careful. I don't think everyone is a perfectionist. I just took a test myself, a personality test, kind of like those things. And, they ask you, would you rather have something that is done perfectly well? How, like they were asking those kind of questions. And I didn't answer to the perfectionist level, but a lot of those questions I answered did have a air of, I prefer things to be right most of the time. And that can creep into, I prefer things to be done perfectly so that nobody can judge them. So I was a little bit on the fence. Usually I would say I'm nowhere near perfectionist, but that's why all of us as creatives, we have perfectionist tendencies just by being creative, because nobody goes out here to get embarrassed. Nobody likes the idea of being judged, harshly critiqued, not good enough. None of us like that feeling. So no matter where you are in the perfectionist spectrum, we all deal with this feeling of, it needs to be better. It's got to be as good as possible. That's a natural part of being an artist, creative, someone that presents, someone that's sharing your gifting with the world. The problem is where it becomes paralysis. Some of you heard analysis by paralysis, right? Or paralysis by analysis. And that paralysis is really where the perfectionism takes over your idea, your motivation. Everything is about keeping everything controlled so that there's no possibility of being judged, of being risky, of somebody saying it's not good enough. You want to control it all the way to the point that someone literally says, pats you on the back and says, yes, it's perfect. That is where perfectionism robs us of the gifting that God has given us to share our gifting with the world, because He was perfect and He made everything perfect. And as I've said in the previous teaching, even God, and be careful, because every time I say this, I think of the theologians that have challenged me on this. But I want to be clear. I'm not saying God didn't do it perfect. What I'm saying is God saw room for improvement. I don't know how that works. How could He be perfect and still saw room for improvement? But He did. He saw Adam, He made everything, and then He's like, that's not good. God made something that he felt could be improved. Does that make sense? So if God himself says this can be improved, this can be even better, then we can do the same thing and not feel like it's wrong to release it. It's wrong to do things that have imperfections in them when God himself allowed something that could be improved to start off the process. And then, of course, women, we all love this. The women all love this when we say, yep, and then he improved it by adding women to the mix and he created Eve. So let's talk a little bit about these different parts of embracing imperfection and 3 ways that you can improve on accepting imperfections, right? So like what I did there, you can become more perfect at accepting your imperfections. All right. The first thing I want to talk about is this paralysis, this feeling that you might have that you're going to be judged harshly for your work. And the social media world, unfortunately, has absolutely increased and made this like a cancer on all of us as creatives and people who are presenting our gifts to the world. Okay. The reason is this comparison with this highlight reel of social media where everybody is showing their best. And even if people show their worst, even if people kind of do the authenticity thing, they're doing it in a very planned way. Like nobody is doing it and then hitting publish without realizing there's a goal here. There's something I want the world to see. And even if they want to see my imperfections, I'm doing it in a way to create this kind of atmosphere around me. It's very me focused. So perfectionism starts with a me focus with everything depends and it has to be right for me to look good or me to look the way that I want to look. That's where we get into trouble. So I want you to turn embracing imperfections around into not thinking about yourself, but thinking about others. What do others need to know about us? What do others need from us? What do others see in us that we don't see in ourselves? One of the biggest things that you know probably has been said a million times is that we are usually our toughest critics. So if that's you, maybe you need to comment in this comment section if you're watching on replay or if you're watching live. Have you been your own toughest critic? Because if you are your own toughest critic, here's the flip side of that. That means nobody else is criticizing you as harshly as you are. And nobody else is seeing the mistakes that you're seeing. We are our own toughest critic many times because we see all the warts and we see all the flaws. But you're the toughest because you see them all and nobody else can see them all. They might see a couple, they might see one, they may see none. And we base our thought process on the person, toughest critic, that sees them all and thinks everybody else sees them all. And yet, that's absolutely not the case. If you're the toughest critic, it's because you are the toughest critic. There's no other critics that are paying attention like you're paying attention. That means nobody else is seeing all the mistakes that you are seeing. The second part I want to kind of jump into before we get into the 3 actual steps that I want you to take to improve your creative confidence is the fact that no matter how much you try to perfect things, when you release it into the world, you are actually serving the world better by letting them see the process of what you're doing. So many people think, oh, I don't want to show them the middle of the thing when it's not quite done. I don't want them to see when it was like a mess, when my painting was a mess and just a bunch of paint on the floor. I don't want them to see the process of me writing my song. I want to wait till it's absolutely perfect so that they don't see the messy middle where I was working so hard on that bridge and couldn't get the right lines and it sounds goofy. This is actually the blessing of the internet where people can participate in your process. So embracing perfection actually means allowing people to see the process. They want to be a part of going from the goofy bridge to the better bridge. They want to be a part of going from, this is why on social media, it's funny. I see so much on social media of these people putting the get dressed with me or get ready with me. Why? Because people love to see process. And again, this is where some people use it as perfectionism because they want to see the perfect process. But the point is that people like to be on the journey with you. It makes you relatable. So creative, don't think that you have to ignore or hide your process of getting your imperfections improved. If you don't start with the imperfections, there's no journey. Just like in a movie, if the hero starts with already having the winning side and the gold and got the girlfriend or whatever the ending credits are, the movie is boring. We want to know, how did he get there? What did he have to overcome? So this is part of your story, and it can be part of your communication and your connection with your creative community, so that they know, oh yeah, this book started where he wasn't even sure what the plot was going to be, but I watched him as he developed this into the best book he's ever written. Or I saw that song, I heard the song when it was just an idea in his head, and now look what he made it into. Look what she made it into. This is where the blessing of the internet, again, can be used to your advantage, but you got to get over perfectionism. I read a book a while ago by Seth Godin, and one of my favorite books. Actually, I think it was a podcast. I don't think he's several different books where he shared this concept, but just that concept of shipping it, sending things out, getting it out on a deadline or before, and not caring how perfect it is. But the deadline is more important than having it perfect. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. Finally, I want to talk about these three things that'll help. And if this is helping you, please let me know in the comments, because if you're watching live and this is helping and blessing you, I would love to know that, just so I can say, all right, this is where our community is. This is where we're actually trying to get better. So if this is helping you, please let me know in the comments. If you're watching on comments or watching on replay, comments, I will come back and watch the comments. Don't worry. All right. So here's the 3 steps I want to tell you about right now, getting rid of that feeling of you can't celebrate your mistakes. I need you to release the need for approval. What do I mean by release the need for approval? Now, some people might say in therapy, this is kind of like getting out of being codependent, feeling like you have to do everything for someone. I'm not going that deep, but to a level, I'm kind of going in that direction. We creatives oftentimes feel that we have to have the approval of the community, the crowd, people clapping. All of that is required for us to feel good about ourselves, the validation. Now, I'm not saying turn a blind eye to the people who you are serving. Of course, their opinion matters, but it should not matter so much that you don't want to share anything with them unless it's perfect. You got to release the need for their approval and realize, first of all, of course, God's approval matters first. And then number 2, you got to realize people are going to change their minds. They'll like this today. They might like it less tomorrow. They might not like it all today. They might love it tomorrow, and vice versa. People's opinions change, and you are not the only one that's in charge of trying to make everything you make as palatable as possible for as many people as possible. That's a recipe for artistic madness and losing your motivation. And it's also mentally and emotionally impossible, and becomes where it drains you from your very talent and inspiration that you want to share. So again, to a point, you shouldn't care what anybody thinks about your art. Now, of course, you have to have some balance, but I'm talking about releasing the need for approval from the perfectionist standpoint. You do not need the approval of everyone. Number 2, done is better than perfect. This goes to the shipping it idea. Please, my friends, I've done this so many times in my life. I have had to tell myself, look, let me share it and let me fix it as I go. Let me share it, get it out there. I did this today with a couple of posts that I was like, I wish I could do a little more, tweaking of this, but done is better than perfect. Getting it out there. Sir, this podcast, thank you so much. I am so blessed that this is helping you. God bless you. Thank you for watching. So yes, done is better than perfect. So getting it done, just saying to yourself, okay, chalking that up as a win, not the win of the approval, not the win of everybody said it was perfect, not the win of I felt like there were no flaws. Nope, the win that I put it out there. And let me just give myself a little bit of a win in that over the years, I've become better and better at getting things out and not wanting it to be perfect. That saying it's done. My podcast was not done in the sense of perfect when I released it. It was not perfect. It was far from perfect. This very platform, StreamYard, if you watch some of my early videos, oh my gosh, I want to erase them all. They do have some views, so I guess it would, I don't know how YouTube treats that, but I want to erase everything I did like COVID-ish around that time, 2020. I really want to erase all of this. Seeing now, I feel like some of you are going to go back and watch them. And I'm already like, and that's exactly what happens. We want perfect. I'm afraid of being judged, even though I did that 5 years ago. But because I kept getting better at just shipping it, get it out, do it every single week, I became more and more comfortable, and my consistency gave me more confidence. But getting it done was the key to that, not perfecting it. Again, excellence, sure. Doing it well, 100%, but not perfection. Embracing those imperfections actually means I'm going to ship more often. I'm going to share more often. I'll get better at getting things out, which means now I can evaluate faster and do better work faster. So it's all about getting that done is better than perfect into your mindset. And finally, capitalize on your mistakes. Now, I've heard so many jazz musicians, I'm a jazz musician, so I've heard so many jazz musicians say this quote, that there are no wrong notes. Now, of course, that goes to a certain level of not exactly. There are definitely notes that should not be played at certain times in certain chords. But let's get to the meat of what that really means. It means that every wrong note could be a right note in a different situation. If you change the bass note, if you change some of the chording structure. Miles Davis was famous for this, just picking notes that didn't seem like they fit, and then the band would make it work, and Miles would make it work, and it was like, oh, that actually sounds amazing. They capitalized on what could have been mistakes. And I've heard, I think it was Scott Adams, a cartoonist, say that, I think, I can't remember the first line of it, but something about making mistakes. But art, he says, art is knowing which mistakes to keep. Art is making mistakes and knowing which mistakes to keep. So again, this goes right back to the, if you're not creating consistently, if you're scared to share things and you keep delaying it because of the mistakes, you're not finding out which mistakes were actually not mistakes at all. They were just mistakes to you. There were mistakes in your current thinking. There were mistakes, maybe even actual mistakes that you say, oh, wow, I shouldn't do that ever again. But unless you have the time to evaluate it, it remains in your head. It remains in a place where you will never find out how valuable that mistake could have been. I cannot tell you how many stories of TV shows and music shows and music pieces and songs that people will say, that started as a mistake. That was not intentional. That was not what I meant to do. But when we did it and it was whoa, that was actually better than we thought. Or that mistake was not as catastrophic as we thought. Maybe we should lean into that. That is where the magic happens, when people celebrate and look forward to mistakes. The reason why the mistakes, again, can be kind of fearful, full of fear, is because we think it's going to be the end of our business. It's going to be the end. Everything's going to become totally mangled and fall apart if I make this mistake. And like I said, it's changing your mindset around that. It doesn't mean you don't want to make mistakes. Of course you don't want to make mistakes. But it also means you are abandoning this idea that every mistake is going to be a game killer. You're actually saying some of these mistakes might be a game changer. This might be something that I am looking forward to, and I got to get more comfortable with making more mistakes, because the more mistakes I make, the more practice I've gotten, the more chances I see if this right, is this right, if this doesn't right, if this is not right, this works, this doesn't work. You've got to get into the habit of sharing and getting these things out of your head and into the world so that you can then capitalize on the ones that weren't as bad as you thought they were. All right, my friend, I hope this has helped. If this has helped, I believe I saw one more comment from JBK. Yes, release the need for approval 100%. Write that down because it has blessed me. I've said this several times in my blogs, and this is a blog that I shared a while ago, but I got to remember which blog it was. And it was where I talked about being a musician and a creative that only played for approval. And I called it, I think it was talking about there is no fear in love, the verse in First John. And I was trying to play to earn love. And the Bible says there's no fear in love. So there's no fear, no condemnation. Yet I was playing and performing, trying to earn that validation, trying to earn it. And it wasn't until I realized that God loved me in spite of, without my talent, that I really embraced my creative calling in a whole new light. Hello, Pamela. I am so glad this is helping because goodness gracious, I think back over this every time. I'm like, have I really conquered this? And I don't think I have. I think everyone is really, really working hard on presenting their best self. And yet, I'll say this one more thing, and I'll leave this topic with this. I believe AI, as much as it's a tool, is also proving that we should be embracing imperfections, because I believe personally one of the huge advantages every human being is going to have over AI is going to be, crazily enough, imperfection. The ability of a human being to say, wasn't good enough, I didn't like it, made this mistake, is going to be, I believe AI is going to try in a weird way to be more human and to make mistakes on purpose. Like, that's where I see it's going to fall apart, because a computer trying to make mistakes, a computer trying to be imperfect to kind of show that humanity is just going to fall flat. Like, it's going to be ugly when they realize that, we can't program this thing to be, make mistakes and be a human, when humans are the best at making mistakes and being authentic and making little, bonehead decisions and things like that. The computer, you literally would have to come to design it to make mistakes, which no one wants a computer to make mistakes. And so that's why I feel like human beings are always going to have the upper hand on AI, because our mistakes actually turn out to be the best thing. But the computer, a mistake is a mistake. A computer's never going to say, well, that mistake was actually the best idea. That's not the way they're designed. So that's kind of like a rabbit trail. But yeah, I definitely think that we are going to see how humans and people, creatives, are going to lean into their imperfections, and it's going to make us even more valuable than these perfect machines that are threatening to replace us. All right. I hope that was a blessing to you all. I love that vital signs. All right, let's get into some meat and potatoes of money and getting financial support from your supporters, from your community, from your clients, from your audience, whatever you want to call it. I want to share what's happening. Lab work is the real stuff. Like, this is happening real time. Anytime I share lab work, it's literally something that I'm doing this week for my business. So, two tools that I want to tell you about. I've shared it in the newsletter. If you do not have the newsletter, you can go to godandgifts.com/info, because I can share these links with you, but the links are actually in the newsletter, and I kind of like spell it out exactly where to get this stuff. So you can do this here, of course, where I talk about it. But if you really want to get like direct info directly from me each week, so you don't have to wait for the video, you can go to godandgifts.com/info and sign up for our newsletter. That's where I share the Creatives Checkup weekly in a written format where you can save it. Everything's there for you. You don't have to go looking for anything. You don't have to say, oh, wait, which video was that he said that? It's right there in your inbox. So I would highly suggest you go get that, because I talked about this in this week's newsletter. So the two tools that are working right now for me. One, as you guys might know, I am a podcast producer of other shows. The God and Gig Show is one of my podcasts. I also produce 3 other podcasts. One of them is a religious daily devotional podcast, and another one is at my church where we are interviewing our pastors and our pastors are talking. So those are the 2 podcasts outside of, and then I have a 4th one, which is a music podcast on Value for Value. That's my fun project. That's my passion project. As you can see, I do a lot of podcasting. So what I want to talk about is one of these shows, we use a tool, and we've talked about this in God and Gigs 360 as well. God and Pamela's there in God and Gigs 360 Gold. So we talked about buy me a coffee. Now you might say, what's buy me a coffee? Well, buy me a coffee is kind of like a Patreon. Some of you guys have heard of Patreon. You've probably heard of these different communities, these different platforms and tools where you can create an account, create kind of like a fan club, sign up membership where people can then buy, access. They can buy membership. They can join your tribe. They can support you. And this is basically what we're talking about. Here's specifically why Buy Me a Coffee is working really well for this particular podcast. One, it fit perfectly with the demographic because we have a lot of coffee drinkers. We had a lot of ladies in that group that coffee was a perfect match. So I thought the marketing was really a good fit. But more importantly, we made it clear that this particular community is the place where you can now support the work we're doing each week as a podcast. One reason why people oftentimes struggle with the whole monetize, I hate saying monetize because I just think it's a buzzword now. But to get your community to buy in, we oftentimes feel like, I don't want to ask them over and over again. But what we did in our podcast is we put a Buzzsprout lets you do this, by the way. You can put a little audio clip on every single episode. By the way, if you want to find out any of these tools, once again, they're all at godofgigs.com/toolkit. So we put a little audio tool, a little audio, clip right at the end of every episode, just saying, hey, if you'd like to support us, check the link in the description. Here's where you can support us. And you guys, that particular campaign is nearing now. They have a $2,000 goal. I think I'm going to raise it because it's almost reached their midpoint of the goal in just 2 months. And that's from individual small contributions. Like some people are giving big, but most are giving small. But they're all like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And they are earning more money than I think they ever did as a podcast when they were just doing like products. And some people have heard me talk about this. It's called value for value. This is the concept from Adam Curry, who recently was on Joe Rogan. I just heard him on Joe Rogan the other day. He's the guy that really helped invent podcasting, the podfather they call him. He's one of the co-inventors of podcasting. And he is using this value for value model. I'm using this value for value model. So it doesn't say that you can't give something in return. You actually should. And where people get into this membership on Buy Me a Coffee, they get exclusive one video episode a week, or a month, I should say a month. And that's how they're earning. But that is where we are using that Buy Me a Coffee page to really build that up. Once again, let me make sure that I put that on the toolkit. I'm pretty sure I did. Because even though we're not an affiliate, I don't only share things that we are an affiliate of. I share, matter of fact, let me just go ahead and pull this up so you guys can see. Share screen. Let's go to God's Toolkit. Let's see. I have Skip. I have Every Dollar. I have Relay. This is the banking stuff. I don't think I have Buy Me a Coffee here yet. So, all right, that means I need to go in. Okay, no, I haven't put it yet. Build your creative business. That's Mighty Networks. Yeah, you know what? I need to go back and put Buy Me a Coffee in. So forgive me for that. It's not on the toolkit, but I would highly recommend you check out buymeacoffee.com. And again, we're not an affiliate, nor do we need to be. What I want you to do is have a strategy and a goal of raising money from your members. But here's the big thing. Like I said, you got to make it clear. You got to ask more than once. You got to make it almost like a consistent ask where they're used to hearing it and they're not blind to it. They're more like, oh, this is what everybody does. This is what we all do. This is the normal thing that we use this tool. That's what happened with Buy Me a Coffee. And that's why that podcast is really, really thriving right now in terms of that. The second one is more for my personal, and that is through Kit. Now, if you know about Kit, that is our email service provider for our business, landing pages, everything goes through Kit. And the monetization, whatever financial support strategy that we're using there is called tip jars. Similar, once again, to like what Buy Me a Coffee does, but this one goes through Kit. And the thing that I did not realize, and I think I talked about this earlier, but I don't know if I really was specific about it, is that this also allows people to give what they want to give. They don't have to buy a product necessarily. They just want to give. They just want, they have to want to give. And when they give, it goes straight from their credit card, really simple, into your bank account. And I can tell you, now honestly, this is where I got shocked, because I had not shared a tip jar from Kit in a long time. I just hadn't done it. And so during the holidays, some of you remember, I got a chance to do a live on Zoom concert, or Christmas concert, just a few songs, but doing it for LaShonda Brown's Bootstrap Biz Advice group. Now, during that that performance, I never was going to ask for any money. Let's just make that clear. It's never going to ask for any money. But someone said, "Oh, you need to have a tip jar out." Da, 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 da. I was like, "Oh, that's so cool," because I do have like this thing. But they were like, "What's the tip jar address?" I couldn't remember. And it was like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to be like nice, but I don't want to ask. But then they asked for me to put it. So that I went and found it. Like, oh, here it is. Do y'all know I had enough tips at the end of the night to pay for an editor for what I'm now doing with my YouVersion devotionals? That just one ask through my Kit tip jars provided all the income I needed for a specific project. That is what's available to you. So if you want to check that out, once again, you can find it at the toolkit, guidegeeks.com/toolkit. You can find the kit really at the top. It's one of our featured best tools. Okay, kit for email, but also for things like this, like just setting up a product, which is a tip jar, and just being able to have people connect their connect their credit card, connect their debit card, and right away they can start giving. Okay, that one is definitely on the toolkit. All right. So that is the lab work. Please use some tool and ask your community to support you. Do not be afraid. McDonald's, Amazon, you name it. All of these corporations ask us dozens of times a day to spend money with them, and they are the biggest corporations on the planet. You should never feel guilty about raising money for your creative plan or for your creative project or your life or your work. All right, let's go back here. All right, this is an interesting question that came up. Well, it didn't really come up as much as, well, yeah, I'll tell you where it came up. We were at a gig performance, and I don't know how we got on the topic of what people ask before they get booked. And I'm talking musicians mostly, but this could be speakers. This could be before you take any kind of client that's on a freelance position. Like you are the worker and then the client is asking for we're about to say, hey, I want to hire you for an individual job. So even if it's not music, this still applies. And so my wife had gotten so sick and tired years ago of me not asking certain questions about the performance, gig, whatever. And I would wait till the end. I'd be like, oh my God, I'm so frustrated. Such and such happened. And my wife would say, did you ask the questions? And she had written them down in her book. I hadn't written them down in my book. So I kind of deserved all this. So long story short, she wrote down 10 questions. And I think I should pull up some of those questions right now so that you guys can see what she came up with and see if you agree with it as well. It's going to be on Facebook. So give me a second. Make sure I'm not hearing myself repeat it twice. Because we already have, obviously, the video going here. Where is it? It is in groups. So let's jump in. Where is it? There it is. All right, wait. Complain on our book. All right, cool. All right, so let's do share. And remember, this can be more than just for musicians. All right, so here we are. Not sure how big it is. Hope you can see it. So, questions that need to be answered before you accept a gig. All right, let me make it bigger where you guys can see the whole screen. So, when, where, pay amount, paid when, rehearsals, sound check. If so, how many? Sound check time, attire, equipment provided, who else is on the gig. So musicians have kind of weighed in. Some people said, I don't ask who's on the gig. It doesn't matter. Whoever they want to be on the gig. But musicians know sometimes you will turn something down because it's not the right vibe with a certain musician. Sometimes if you have the money and you're getting the money, but the where is way too far away, doesn't matter, right? If it's going to be paid 6 months from now, you're not too excited about taking that gig. So here's where I think this particular list will be so helpful for so many of us. It reminds you that you have to have the information up front. If people are asking for your time, you have the right to ask them how they're going to spend it. What are you going to do with my time? Once I commit to this, are you going to follow through with what you're following through? Because I'm going to follow through with what I'm going to follow through with in terms of what you tell me. So I want to know where you're at. I want to know if you are following through with what you have stated you want to do or where you want to hire me and all that kind of stuff. So some people were like, oh, I don't want to ask too many questions. Let me tell you. And by the way, this is where I want to ask you in the comments or in the chat. What are some things you need to know before you accept an engagement, a gig, a booking opportunity, a speaking arrangement, whatever that is? What are the things that you are asking? Because I would love for us to see there's more things that you should know for a fact before you jump into any performance or accepting any gig and or like presentation type situation. Again, this could be so many different things, but I think the core of it is knowing you got to ask a certain question. You got to ask certain questions to find out what is actually required of this performance, what's actually required of this industry, what's actually required of this speaking gig. Like, you know, and there's so many things. Like obviously you talk about out of town, we could say hotel accommodations, all these things, like things that need to be on the contract. Like these are the things that you need to ask questions about. So in the comments or in the chat, let me know, what things are you asking? Do you have 10 questions, 5 questions, 6 questions? Do you have just like, hey, just how much does it pay? And that's it. Like you're happy. Like, so talk to me in this comment section and also in the chat if you can. What questions are you asking before you're booked? Before you say yes, what do you think you need to know before you accept it? Because we can add this to this list and we can keep this comments going. You can always go in the Facebook group and comment as well. And I think I want to put this inside the membership as well so that we can answer it there, because some of you guys don't want to jump out of the membership. I think I put it in the membership. Let me take a quick look. Just save it. I'll give you guys a glance inside the membership too, because some of you have not seen it. Let's see if I posted it. It would have been under, what would it have been under? Probably entrepreneurs or maybe music. We have different hubs, as you can see. I have not put it in any of them. Okay, so we're going to do this now just inside the membership. So if you guys are in God Gigs 360 Gold, you're going to see this, or God Gigs 360. I'm not going to put it in musicians. Yeah, we'll put it in musicians first. And then we'll look a little later and see where else we could put it. So let me just post this. I love you guys to comment on it when you see it. I'll fix all this in a second. When, so on. But yeah, these are the questions that we need to know. Like, why do we go in there not knowing how much we're being paid? Why do we go in not knowing when the payment's going to come? Like, this is the kind of stuff that if they don't know now, they're probably not going to know later. And if you accept it, it's kind of like on us when we do not pay attention to at least the basic questions, right? So I'll add a picture later on. Very cool. All right. I hope that was helpful as well. Wilfredo is here. Hello, my friend. Hope you are continuing to recover and feel better, man. I'm so glad to see you as always in the Creative Checkup. All right. So let's stop sharing for a second and let's go on to our final. This hour went so fast. This hour went like flew by. Okay. So what do you, I just did that one, silly. There we are. Yeah. All right. Prescriptions, what I suggest everybody do, and I'll have to go back for this slide, sign up for the masterclass, the Call of the Creative Masterclass. There it is. Go ahead and sign up for that right away. Again, Monday. If you sign up, you will not, you will get a replay. So you won't miss it, even if you're working on Monday. You can watch it later. We will always leave room for comments and things for people who watch things on replay. So please, even if you can't be there live, this is going to be worth the watch. And again, as I was mentioning earlier, Marlita has written the book Defying Discord. She's a podcaster with the Kingdom Artist Life. She's been on the same show as I have. Matt Tommy, who is a thriving Christian artist, has millions of downloads. She's been on that show. And again, she's just an incredible sister, an incredible mentor. Her thought process through what she shares in the Holy Spirit, but about the Holy Spirit, about how he guides our creative lives, is I've never heard anyone more articulate than she is with these specific questions on how to embrace God's artistic assignment. So $10 again is our way of making sure we can support this work. $10 will also, if you want, and I haven't put this out in a while, but you can join the membership and just pay $10, and then $10 a month gets you into every workshop. So you won't have to go back and say, oh my gosh, wait, did I pay for this workshop? Did I pay for that workshop? No more. No, you'll be automatically in all of them. And then God and Gigs 360 Gold, you're also automatically in all of our creative workshops. You don't have to add anything to it. So if you go to godandgigs.com/membership, you can go ahead and get the $10 resource version, which again is just monthly $10, but you can also pay the one-time $10 if you just want to do that, and this is the only one you want to watch, okay? But this is going to be hugely a blessing for so many of you who have been questioning, wondering if this is the time you should go full-time, you should go part-time, you should do whatever God is calling you to. This is what's going to help you, because we're going to share our stories. We're going to share how I started from teacher, full-time minister, to part-time everything, starting my podcast, starting my music career, and doing it outside of the church, which was, like, let's be honest, like, it was a big deal, and it still for many people is a big deal when you play in church and outside of church. Is why God and Gigs exists. The very first thing was musicians who play outside of church. And so now that we're talking about all kinds of creative spheres, all kinds of creative entrepreneurship, how do you know God is calling you into business? How do you know God is calling you into dance? How do you know God is calling you into coaching? How do you know God's calling this artistic assignment? And again, we are artisans in so many different ways. A plumber is an artisan, if you want to think of it that way, with the pipes. He knows how to solve an issue and make it a beautiful way to fix a problem. So even an artist could be a cosmetic. Forgot the name of it. I almost said cosmologist. Can't think of the person that's a cosmetician. There we go. Cosmetician. Okay. So all these are artistic expressions. And so whatever your artistic expression is, there's a call that God can use it both inside and outside the ministry. But the question is, how do you identify it? How do you move through it? This is what we're going to be answering in the Call of Creative. Once again, $10. You want to go to godandgigs.com/creative call. Let me pull that up one more time. So that is where you want to get into that. All right. We've got about 5 minutes. I'm going to review and make sure there's any other questions, but I don't believe we have any at this point. So we might let you go a little early. We'll decide. I actually do have a gig this evening. I'll be performing at a Valentine's. Oh, I didn't say Happy Valentine's Day. Oh my God. I am so sorry. I just went through the entire thing and did say Happy Valentine's Day. To everyone who is celebrating, celebrate with your boo, celebrate with your spouse. Me and my wife, as I just mentioned, we're going to be doing a show here in South Florida, which is going to be a ton of fun. If you're in South Florida, please go grab a ticket, because I would love to see you over there. But for everybody else, just want to wish you a happy Valentine's Day. Hope you had a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful week. And let me just give you a couple more prescriptions and things that have been coming on, things that are coming up next. Our latest interview, our podcast, was a replay of one of our most popular podcasts. Let me pull that up for a second because that has been getting a lot of play, a lot of people paying attention to that, which it was one of our most popular. So I wasn't surprised that it was more popular the second time, the third time, whatever. But our interview with Carlin McCullers. Actually, I'm just going to pull up the front page. It's probably the best way. Hopefully, you're already subscribed to our YouTube. But if you go into our YouTube right now, let's see if I can find it. Oh, it's not there. It's got to be on the videos. Here we go. Let me pull this up for you. Share screen. Yes. So if you check this out real quick, you'll see the latest episode is right there. Talent or character. That one has been going huge for our channel. Almost 100 views, like right off the bat, which is not like ours. Normally we have kind of like a slow burn with these, and now this one's almost to 100 views because Carlin really is the real deal. He's built a 7-figure business. He's a drummer for some of the most prestigious cheers and churches in the nation, and yet he's so humble. So please, if you have not watched that one already, go check that one out. If you're watching on YouTube, it's very easy. You can go jump over right now after this and go watch Carlin McCullers' Keys to a Thriving Christian Creative Career. Before that, you see we had some other amazing interviews with Ms. Melissa Vargas on emotional highs and lows of creative life. She was sharing so transparently after like just 2 weeks after losing her dad. Like, it was devastating to realize that she had to deal with that, but yet she shared with such clarity and then how it affects her creative life. And then, oh, by the way, should mention, there's Marlita right there. This was also one of our replays that I brought back. Are you called to create? And this is where you can get like a sneak peek of what Marlita shares and what we'll share a lot more in depth in our recording that we'll do on this coming Monday for our call to call it the Creative Workshop. So that's what just got released. Coming up, we have an amazing interview with my friend Tuesday. Tuesday is her real name, and she is going to be sharing about the film industry, which is super cool. So that's coming up next. Okay, so definitely go ahead and make sure you subscribe to godandgigs.com/podcast. If you have not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe, because this is where, if you're not doing it on YouTube, get it through your audio player, because these are the things that people say, oh my gosh, I love this so much. And we see these comments, and then, people are like, well, where did I see it? I didn't know it was out there. Yes, it's out there. You got to go find it and check it out. Okay, godandgigs.com/podcast. Already mentioned for the newsletter, godandgigs.com/info. That comes out on Wednesdays. Mondays is a podcast. Wednesday is our newsletter. Fridays is this specific creatives checkup. All right, my friends, looks like we are good. Thank you so much, Kenny Felix, for joining us. JBK, thank you for joining us so much. It was great having you. Pamela was able to jump in, and Wilfredo was also there. And if you're watching on replay, once again, you are important. Not everybody can join us at 1 p.m. Eastern. I get it. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be jumping out in a second to go to my event. So I can't always join all the live streams I want to join. But you're watching on replay. You made it to the end. Please type replay in the comments so I know you were here. Share something that you learned. Share a takeaway. That means a lot. Number one, it helps us to convince the YouTube recommendation engines that, yes, people watch the replays. They comment and then they share after the fact. So it's not just a live stream. Keep this on so more people can learn from what we shared throughout the live stream, because sometimes I repurpose parts of this. I usually don't repurpose all of it. There'll be pieces that just like stay on the live stream, and maybe somebody gets value from that. So comment, share, post, just like this was a real video, because it helps us to share the message that God has given us to help creators become the creators that He created them to be. All right, my friends, looks like we're going to finish right on time. So God bless. And until next time, continue to become the creative that you were created to be. God bless. And I hope I will see you Monday for our Call of the Creative Workshop with Marlita Hill. Go check that out right there at godandgigs.com/creative call. God bless, and we'll see you next time.